My name is Stephen Anderson. This is my informative speech, and this is my wonderful audience.
Whee!
Few dogs are as emotionally engaging or physically elegant as the Greyhound. None are as swift. Its unmatched fleetness is key to the breed's longtime survival. Bred to hunt, the Greyhound is a lineage extending back 8,000 years. Throughout its history and around the world, the Greyhound has been the companion of kings and the inspiration of writers and artists alike. That's an excerpt from Barbara Carent's book, Greyhounds. She's a rescuer of greyhounds after they finish racing, and she takes them into her care. Greyhounds have been seen many times throughout history and have little changed since the beginning. And on greatgreyhounds.org, it actually talks about the whole history of them when they were first noticed in Turkish temples back about 6000 BC on things like art and like pots and wall paintings and things like that. So it's really interesting. So like I said, they had been found on vases in present-day Turkey back about 6000 BC. Nomadic camps back in the day, most dogs to them were wild and disagreeable, but the Greyhound was actually very calm around them, and so they took them in and taught them how to hunt and started hunting with them, and then they finally brought them into their camps and treated them as pets as well. And a fun fact is that greyhounds are actually mentioned in the Bible in Proverbs, if you want to go look up that in your spare time. If we take a look in ancient Egypt, about 2000 to 4000 BC, there's a nice statue of one. They were also kept as hunters and companions as well. The birth of a greyhound was only second to that of a son in the family. So if a son was born, the next best thing that could happen was that a greyhound would come into the family. Much like it is today, the death of a greyhound meant mourning for the whole family as well. And the favorite hounds of the upper class, so if you were like a high-class priest or a king or a pharaoh, if your greyhound died and then you died later, like closely in that time period, the greyhound would often be buried with you, just as a sign of respect for your own dog. The Egyptians also decorated their walls with pictures of greyhounds. Aside from statues and things that they built, they also decorated the walls and things. Many pharaohs, including Cleopatra, they also had greyhounds as well. So if we go and take a look at ancient Greece now, there's a nice statue of two greyhounds that they had back in the day playing. For those of you who read Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey in there, Odysseus left for 20 years and came back, but he disguised himself when he came back so nobody would recognize him. And his dog, who was a sighthound, and typically those are greyhounds as well, was the only one to recognize him. And if you guys aren't familiar with the Actaeon and Artemis story, Actaeon saw Artemis bathing in a river, and she was a Greek god, and she turned him into a greyhound. Oh, I'm sorry, she turned him into a stag, and his own greyhounds hunted him down, which, I mean, that's kind of a sad story, but they were also widely used for hunting as well. So if we take a look now at the Italian Renaissance, you can see a picture here. If you see this dog right here, that is a smaller version of the greyhound. It's called a whippet, and they're not used for hunting, but they are commonly used as house pets these days, especially. Shakespeare's Henry V, the king addresses his troops before they go into battle, saying, "I see you stand like greyhounds in the slips, straining upon the start, the game's afoot." And what he's basically referencing is the fact that they're about to go into battle, and much like a greyhound would go into his hunt, they're really anxious to get out there and just, you know, start battling. And so lastly, the greyhound is most commonly today used as a racing dog. They're bred from racing dogs to be racing dogs, and then afterward they're sent to rescues where they are adopted out to homes who take care of them. And it's great because those homes, I mean, they're all around the country, and there's thousands of greyhounds that go and get adopted daily. These greyhounds are trained really heavily as they grow up, so they're housebroken usually when people get them. Their barking is limited just because, I mean, they're not bred to bark, they're bred to race, so, you know, you don't have time for barking. But a lot of things that people like to do these days are dress them up in great clothing, and I think they make great photographers as well. Or they're very photogenic, I should say. And that is all. Thank you.